Well, good evening, everybody. Michael Soothing here. I have here, I showed you for a moment in another video, I have a book about the place I just got back from, Copenhagen, Denmark. And I just wanted to peruse through it a little bit and talk about the Danes just a little bit. I cannot profess to be any kind of expert, given I only spent a week there, but nonetheless, I'll give you my general impressions. Let's see, it's all Copenhagen and North Zealand. No, not New Zealand, North Zealand. Notice the Danes have sort of a nice, simple flag, red with a white cross on it, basically. It looks a little like from the Crusades, though, so I don't know whether they were involved. I'll have to study up on that. You know, it's Scandinavia. You've got Finland and Norway and Sweden right there, just above Denmark. Here's an introduction. There's a sky shot of Copenhagen, and here's like one of the main canals there. See, it's very picturesque. It's just the way you would picture an old European city. Everywhere you go, it looks like a postcard if you're from America. So, yeah, it's quite interesting in that regard. It says here in the intro, the Danes are surrounded on all sides by water, lakes, rivers, fjords, and bays give shape to the profile of the Danish archipelago, and the geography of the city of Copenhagen that's Hagen actually. I said it wrong. You would think that when we say Copenhagen, we're pronouncing it wrong, but that's actually correct. The country as a whole. Let's see what they say about about that. Somewhere here it's going to talk about that mermaid, see? But they've got a lot of Norse mythology and stuff like that. They were overrun many times in history. Vikings, and everybody was always fighting in that area. Denmark is like a big giant island that's just below the big former kingdoms of Sweden and Norway. They all had kings, and they still pretty much do. And they have an aristocracy still, even though that's not their actual political power system. And they all have their own currency. They don't really use the euro. They're not on the euro. They use Danish crowns. And you can get about 7 of those Danish crowns for each US dollar. And with the dollar going up in value lately, pretty soon it might be 8 Danish crowns you can get for a dollar. So you'll get a better bargain when you go there. It's not super expensive there to visit. I think I paid about $130 a night or something for a 2-star hotel. But they had a free buffet each morning, which was pretty good. The only downside being it's the same thing every day. And so, but that's what you find in America in free buffets too. If you go to, say, the Residence Inn, it's pretty much the same thing every day, right? So anyway, I'll give you my impression of the Danish people. They wear all black. They seem to be kind of emotionless. Maybe it's something to do with the northern climate, or maybe it's the diet they eat. It's not a very healthy diet. It's a lot of fatty meat like sausage and stuff like that. And then a lot of carbs. They don't call pastries Danish all over the world for nothing, right? There's a reason they're called Danish. But some of the Danes are pretty chubby as a consequence, but a lot of them are not because they ride their bicycle and walk everywhere. Everywhere you go, everybody's on a bike. Little old ladies are passing you, even on a snowy day, riding their bike, right? It's different than in America where everybody has to drive everywhere. They have some beautiful amber shops because there's amber in that region, from prehistoric times. Traditional Danish dishes. Ooh, they have some nasty looking eel there. I don't think I want any of that eel, do you? Or is that a big sausage? That's probably a sausage, not an eel. I don't know. What does it say? It's not telling me. The other thing I noticed about Denmark is that the language must be the most difficult on earth to learn, other than maybe in Iceland. You got all these consonants, but you don't pronounce them. So, and every word that in English might be 5 letters is like 58 letters long in Danish. Plus there's funny little symbols above them that I don't have the slightest idea what they mean. But here's the town square, town hall square. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And here we have the dragon fountain. Like I said, there's a lot of Norse mythology and stuff there, so you have dragons and a lot of Scandinavian element there in their history, as well as early Christianity and all kinds of other elements mixed together. The Fountain of Charity there, see? And let me see if I recognize. Oh, I think, yes, I'm sure of it. This bridge, I went on this bridge. It connects Denmark and Sweden. So on my last trip there in the summer, we took a train trip over to Sweden, and it did not take long to get there. So it's pretty easy to get from one country to another in Denmark. Oh, look here. I recognize this from last week. This is called the shopping street, called Stroget or something, I don't know. You go down this long street of shops, and it's called like the walking street or the shopping street. And there's tons of shops and malls, and there were artist enclaves where they had a bunch of little wooden sheds where street artists were selling things and stuff like that. It was pretty interesting. I was going to try to go in one of the big fancy churches, but they were having a funeral, so I couldn't go in. But this will give you an idea of how ornate they are inside. There's one there. And I don't know if they have an outside picture of one that we saw, because I haven't looked through this book yet. I wanted to do it, impromptu with you and ad-lib everything. I always feel it's less than authentic if you do a dry run or a rehearsal of what you're going to talk about. I don't think you want that from me. I think you want me to just do my thing and have it be authentic and off the top of my head, even if I sound stupid. So that's what I like to do. Okay, there we go. Just another inside shot. Our Lady, the Cathedral of Copenhagen. Hagen. You know, I'll just think the Godfather, Tom Hagen. Copenhagen. Christiansborg, the old stock exchange. Do they show any Danish words in here? I want to show you how hard they are to say. I mean, I can't pronounce any of them, but they're full of T's and S's and K's and everything, like Stukum, and it's like, you go, huh, what? You know, you know, people would talk to me in Danish, you know, in a store or something, and I would give them this baffled stare, and they would have recognition. Oh yeah, another stupid American, right? We know your language, buddy. How come you don't know ours? And I would be thinking to myself, well, isn't that obvious? Like, your language makes no sense. It's impossible to learn, right? And so you fill your words with, you know, a million consonants that don't get pronounced. So anyway, no, I'm not going to be that way. I think it's very interesting, their language. But I find that it's not as poetically enjoyable to listen to as, say, Italian or Spanish or French, the more Latin-based languages. The Norwegian, the Scandinavian languages are, they're kind of cool to hear, but, you know, I think I like the Latin-based languages better as far as the poetry of the ASMR ear. Okay, look at the Royal Library. It looks like something from the Egyptian pyramids or something. Isn't that cool? Great big thing. And yeah, there's canals and stuff. The church at Holmen. You always wonder, how did they build this thing when, you know, the bottom part's underwater? So, you know, how do you lay the brick and everything down in the water, right? I didn't go on any of these boat tours or anything, but it looks like it would be interesting if you were going in the summer, don't you think? So, oh look, it's a very interesting church. The Church of Our Savior, view of the tower. It's got a spiral on the outside that you can walk up. It looks like that's pretty cool. I don't know about you, but I have a little fear of height. This is almost like Venice, you know, boat tours, going under walking bridges and stuff like that. Maybe I'll go back there someday, and we'll see. A handful of hippies in 1971 occupied the abandoned Navy barracks. Oh, here's a Danish word I can't pronounce. Basmonsterstra. Okay, let me show you the word. It starts up here, the word, with those letters, and then keeps going down here. You know, can you pronounce that? I can't. All right, so if you can, more power to you. So, figurehead from Holmen. Do you ever wonder what it was like in the Viking days when they were invading, you know, Denmark and Belgium and all these places? So, Copenhagen Opera House. I wonder how that compares to the Sydney, Australia Opera House. I don't know. Here's the interior of another church. Well, this is interesting. Exterior view of the round tower. I did not see this. Check that out. That looks like something left over from Viking. Yeah, that's from 16th or 15th century, I think. The pedestrian area of Copenhagen, Traders Street, where it crosses with Stroget. I was close to there, and I missed it. Look, the crowns of Danish monarchy. That's kind of cool. I wonder how much those are worth. Or is that a very crass question to ask? I'm sure it must be. Rose Garden, a beautiful Rosenborg Palace. Rosenborg with roses in the front. Prize winning roses. I just watched Rain Man recently, film about the autistic played by Dustin Hoffman, and when Tom Cruise finds out that his brother inherited all the money, $3 million estate from their dad who died, but Tom Cruise got nothing, he gets a little bit upset because in the will the father says, but I'm giving you my prize, roses. So he says to the trustee, upset? Why should I be upset? I got the roses, didn't I? I mean, those are roses. I got the rose. I definitely got the roses, right? And so he got $3 million, but I got roses, you know. And he goes on and on about it. You can kind of understand that, you know, right? Even though he was mean to his old man and cut off ties. So it was kind of his fault, in a way. Interesting night shots there, I think. Yeah. This makes me want to go back. All these things here. So, what is this? Is like a big, there's a statue of somebody or other. And I'm not going to try to do a history lesson. I'm just showing you the highlights. The Palm House of the Botanical Gardens. They have something that looks kind of like this in San Francisco. I'm wondering if it was modeled on the Copenhagen one, because it looks like a knockoff that's a little smaller. So I'll bet you the architect or designer of the San Francisco one, that's in Golden Gate Park, took some inspiration from the one that's in here in Copenhagen. Wow, look at that church. The outside facade, Citadel, Grundtvig Citadel, looks like a big, giant, Gothic pipe organ, doesn't it? But that's actually a building right there. So, fascinating architecture. Very Gothic. Okay. The history of some of these places, when you study it, is really amazing and fascinating. I think, here are some more picturesque scenes. Like I said, every place you go in Copenhagen, you are going to have a postcard level photo op. Why are they showing two different views? Frederick's Church. I think it's kind of sad that there are all these spectacular churches in Northern Europe, but nobody goes to them except as a tourist. That makes me feel kind of sad. Here's a church called the Marble Church, Friedrich's Church, popularly known as the Marble Church. I guess they used a lot of marble inside. That one. And I'm still waiting to see. Here's some Hans Christian Andersen. paper cuts from the fairy tales. I guess Hans Christian Andersen was a world famous Danish fairy tale writer, which we know well because most of us, grew up either hearing some of his stories or, seeing adaptions of them or something like that. Yeah, he wrote The Ugly Duckling and The Princess and the Pea, The Emperor's New Clothes. I didn't know he wrote that one. He was quite a genius. The Little Mermaid. Oh, see, that's where the mermaid comes from. The Tin Soldier, Clumsy Hans, The Nightingale, Thumbelina. Wow. He wrote some incredible body of fairy tales that we've all heard of. I guess he spent some time in Odense, and there's a museum there. In Copenhagen, he lived many years in Nyhavn, and from 1848 to 1865, he had 3 rooms on the 2nd floor. Although all through his life he made many journeys abroad, traveling was one of his great passions. His motto was, "To travel is to live." So there is a statue of Hans Christian Andersen. I think they would say Andersen or something, in Danish, but I have no idea. And here are some pictorials of his fairy tale stories, right? That you may or may not recognize. Alright, so let's see. The Church at St. Albans, the most historic Holman naval base, is over here. There's some cruise ship stop there, see? Right there. And I keep seeing this mermaid, but they never tell me who she is. And I'm going to be bothered by that if I never find out. I'm sure eventually they'll tell me. And I bought a little mermaid statue. Let's see. Does it tell me on the next page? 3 views. Oh, okay. That's one of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. It's The Little Mermaid, which I suspected on the previous page. Okay, so it tells us here 3 views of the famous sculpture of the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen, the foundation of Edvard Eriksson. So we saw the view on the previous page. Here are 2 other views. That's when it's pretty snowy, right? It can get pretty cold in Denmark. It was, about between 0 and 4 or 5 degrees Celsius when I was there. So that's like 32 to, 40. But there's a chill wind most of the time, and that keeps it pretty cold. Frederiksberg's Castle with a fountain in front. See there? And a Copenhagen zoo. Zoo animals. Yeah. Some people don't like to see big cats unless they're in a natural habitat, I understand. But I think they have, this looks like a big habitat, not like a cage or a small area. Thorsvalsten Museum, statues of Greek and Roman gods by the Danish artist that the museum is devoted to. See there? Are you getting a thirst to go to Copenhagen? I think it would be a worthwhile, but I would recommend doing it in the summer, okay? So, not in the winter. Here is a windmill. I know that those are mostly the Netherlands that you think of windmills, but they're all over Northern Europe especially the flat, windy countries like Denmark and Estonia and the Netherlands and, places like that. Lots of that, west-east wind. There's some pomp and circumstance stuff going on here with royalty and everything like that to show you. And then, nice gardens. This must be like, Mary and Frederick, the all-important wedding of His Royal Highness Crown Prince Frederick and Miss Mary Donaldson, 32, from Tasmania, Australia. Oh, she's not even Danish. Do you know that opposites attract? Okay, so in the old days, the aristocracy would marry their daughter off to some other king's prince from another country to try to prevent war, It's like, oh, now we have a blood tie, so we can't go to war. And sometimes it was a good strategy, but not always. Sometimes problems were created, like with King Henry, who kept killing off his wives and things, including the ones that were foreign, like from Spain. And, as soon as he got a hold of a wife he was obsessed with, he lost interest about 3 days later and had to go find a new conquest. All right. This is a fascinating looking castle. Friedrichsburg Castle, another view here. This really shows the aerial shot. My brother would have a field day because he's got, a drone that he can put a high quality camera on it and take sky shots of everything. Danish kings and queens. Yeah, Danish kings and queens and things like that. There's a whole long list. A lot of them are named Frederick and Christian. Like all of them, okay, until you get way back into some earlier times. Then you have some Valdemars and stuff. But otherwise, look at they're all named. They all have the same name. They're all Frederick and Christian. There, so. All right. Yeah, we went on some of these streets here. Canals and stuff around. It's pretty interesting. And they have a great train system in Denmark. Oh, here's an aerial view of the country, and it's got the actual Danish names. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sjælland or something, See, it's surrounded by water on all sides. Here's where I went to Sweden, over here to Malmo, on my last trip there a few months ago. But I didn't go this time. And that's probably the last European travel I will do in quite a long time. I'm going to hold this like this and see if YouTube is smart enough to capture this as a thumbnail. All right, everybody. I'm sure it's probably not smart enough, but I'll try it anyway. Okay, everyone. So, don't ASMR and drive. Oh, I have to tell you. I'll put this in the description too. I'm going to be gone yet again for at least 2 weeks, and I don't know if I'll be uploading anything in that time. Maybe some of the videos I shot in the last 2 or 3 days. I have 3 or 4 that I can upload, but it will be very spotty during the holidays and when I go have my eye surgery and have to recuperate from that. It's both eyes, cataracts, you know. After that, I will have perfect vision. So I'm looking forward to that. And so be patient, and I'll be back in January. Okay, take care, everyone, and don't ASMR and drive, okay? Bye-bye.